Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Open Mic. Thanks for being with us. Our guest today is Thelonious Seaercy, who has spent over 17 years in prison for a murder he says he didn't commit. But that's just the beginning. Listen to this. A Detroit hitman who is serving life in prison for multiple murders has said under oath several times that he is the one who, in fact, killed the man that Thelonious is doing time for. Joining us now is Thelonious Seaercy on Open Mic. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. That's what you're going to hear on my podcast, Open Mic. I'm going to tell you things that most lawyers won't tell you. We expose the truth and bring you justice. I want you to go for the win in law and in life.
You want an honest man, but you don't understand. I want to be here when.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. How you doing?
I'm well. Lots to talk about. You know, your name came up on episode 10. We're now well over 100 episodes, and I learned about you a long time ago during the Devontae Sanford case. Are you familiar with who that is?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And your name came up because you guys share something in common. Both wrongfully convicted, and both there's a hitman out there saying he did the crimes.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to get more into that. But I want to start, you know, you've been out of prison since what, April of 2021?
Yes, sir. I got out April 20th, 2021.
Tell me what life's been like for you since getting out not even 5 months ago, 4 months ago.
Well, life been good because I'm not inside of bondage and oppression. I'm out here in society where, you know, I could be a productive member of society with my family and, being a father to my children, being a husband to my wife, and being a son to my mother, and a grandson to my grandmother. Just being free, away from stress and the environment where I was at. It's always a plus. Just being back out here, just good.
Fantastic. So the two children you mentioned, you had these children before you even went to prison.
Yes, sir.
How old are they now?
They'll be 24 and 23. My oldest daughter is 23. LaShira, my youngest daughter, Paige, is 22. She'll be 23.
And their mom, your wife, you guys are still married?
Yes, sir.
So she stuck with you these last 17 years while you were incarcerated.
Yes, sir.
That's amazing. And your mother's still alive?
Yes, sir.
That truly is a blessing. And you know, your story is complicated. You are out right now on bond, waiting for a second trial. Is that true?
Yes, sir.
You're out because the Michigan Court of Appeals says that you should be given a new trial. Tell us, when you got that decision back 4 months ago, I mean, what that means for you and how you felt when you read that.
Well, I felt like, I was finally bearing witness to, the realness of God. I was able to see God move, in my direction in regards to his power and authority, So upon seeing that decision, I was happy to see that the truth was finally coming out. I waited a long time for just pieces of my case that never be discussed. It was like I never had a local media outlet to really look into my case in general. I never had nobody, really try to investigate the things that I was saying outside of, this lady from the Voice of Detroit named Diane Bukowski. People such as you, to sign the petition in regards to change.org. So getting that decision, I felt that I was just one step closer to my freedom.
Tell me what's your understanding of why the Court of Appeals feels that you need a second trial or you deserve a second trial?
Well, I feel that the Court of Appeals thoroughly investigated my file, something that no court has ever gave me the opportunity. You know what I mean? I was in a situation where um, my case just kept getting, as soon as my case, People versus Thelonious Seaercy, it just kept getting rubber stamped. Every time you see my case would come up, it was just getting rubber stamped. Nobody never thoroughly investigated. They just went with the information that was submitted before the courts and the denials that came from the trial court before my chief judge, which was Timothy Kinney. It just went. I was denied before him. Then I was denied in the Court of Appeals. Then I was denied in the Supreme Court. Then I was denied in the federal court. Nobody never really thoroughly investigated none of the information that was in black and white in my case. So I believe the Court of Appeals, they actually researched, they actually read the transcripts, they actually looked at the exhibits, and they actually saw what my attorney Michael Desi was stating in his brief and on the record before the courts was true and factual.
And what was the thing they hung their hat on, saying that you needed a new trial?
Well, for starters, I have a chief judge. The chief judge of my case, his name is Timothy Michael Kinney. He represents the whole Wayne County Third Circuit Court, and he was my trial judge. And during jury deliberations, the jury sent a letter to my judge, and they were stating that they could not find me guilty. And he sent them back in the jury room and made them continue to deliberate. Although they sent that information, but the kicker about that is that what Judge Kinney did was that note, he suppressed that letter. It never became a part of the record. So they looked at that, and they looked at the fact that during jury deliberation on I believe it's May 6, 2005, page 89, lines 5 through 13, my jurors came out and they asked the courts, they wanted to know what type of caliber of weapon or bullet that killed the deceased. And the judge said, after speaking with both attorneys, they agreed to my sharing with you that the caliber bullets that was found in the deceased were too deformed to be able to identify. That statement within itself was a lie. It was a deliberate lie. And during the critical stage of my trial, which ultimately forced the door open for me to get found guilty. And I say that based on facts. It's nothing, of way of emotion. It's based on actual facts of the record. The People Exhibit 23, which the prosecutors had in their possession, they had 4 evidence tags on there. All 4 evidence tags was the evidence that they abstracted from the deceased's body, and they was all identified as a 40. And the firearm examiner, he had identified these bullets on January 27, 2005, months prior to my May 2nd trial date of 2005. So when they told the jury that they didn't know, they knew it.
Why is that relevant? Why is a 40 caliber bullet relevant?
Why was it relevant? Because that was the actual gun that Vincent's mother said that he killed the guy with. And the 40 was relevant because they wanted to know what kind of caliber of weapon that killed him. Those were the bullets that came out of the deceased. At the time of my arrest, I was arrested. The police recovered a 45 handgun from my grandmother's house. And during trial, the prosecutor argued that that was the murder weapon. He basically showed them the 45 as if it was the murder weapon. And he wanted them to believe that that was the murder weapon. So when he told them that he didn't know what type of caliber of weapon that killed the deceased during my jury deliberation, it was a deliberate lie. It wasn't done by mistake. It wasn't mistaken in fact. It was based on a deliberate lie.
So before we, get into Vincent Smothers and some of the crazy details that happened, I want to back up a little bit for people who don't know about your case. You said there wasn't a ton of media coverage. A man by the name of Jamal Seegers was murdered during a botched robbery, they say. And tell me, I'm curious how you found out that this person was murdered.
Well, on this particular night, I had a barbecue at my mother's house on Balfour Street on the northeast side of Detroit. And on 11 o'clock news, we watched it on the news, or breaking news was now. I was on Balfour, and that's how I learned of the guy. I didn't even really know his name because I didn't hear his name. Only thing I saw was the guys who they said that was shot during the shooting in front of the Detroit City Airport, and that's how I learned about.
Had you ever heard of Jamal Seegers or met him before?
I didn't even know him.
And so you were at a family
barbecue.
barbecue with how many people?
I probably had about 17, 18 people, you know what I mean?
These are all your alibi witnesses.
Yeah, and then it was neighbors, to stay next door to me, people across the street. It was a whole lot of people that's, was in the vicinity of this barbecue to see me there with my daughters. I had both of my daughters with me the whole, the whole entire time that I was there. And
so how did you become a suspect?
I became a suspect by way of an informant. It was an informant by the name of DeAnthony Witcher. And
do you know who this person is?
Yeah, I knew DeAnthony Witcher. I knew DeAnthony Witcher from the streets.
Okay.
Previous to my arrest, I was in the streets. I ran the streets. I don't elude from my past in the streets. I was in the streets. And I knew this guy. And what happened with this particular guy is it was an incident going on in regards to me and this guy, DeAnthony Witcher. And what he did was he went upon being arrested by this crooked homicide detective named Dale Collins. This guy, Dale Collins, was involved in the Dragnet scandal. Him and multiple other homicide detectives in 1998. A guy, a homicide detective named Reginald Harville and Isaiah Smith. And what they was doing at this time was they was forcing uncorroborated witnesses to testify. And they was locking them up. They was forcing them to testify or forcing them to cooperate with an investigation in regards to any kind of homicides. So
like fake snitches.
Right.
Fake jailhouse snitches, even though they weren't in the jailhouse, but
Right. So it was when this guy got killed, this particular homicide guy went to go pick up DeAnthony Witcher. Upon picking up DeAnthony Witcher gave an investigative subpoena support. And they usually only utilize these investigative subpoena supports during grand jury indictments. But in my particular case, the prosecutor sought to use this. And this wasn't by mere coincidence. They utilized this to make sure that this guy testified to the information that he was disclosing during his deposition hearing. And it's basically like as if they compelled him to testify to the information that he disclosed. But what he disclosed is that we had an ongoing feud. And previous to the ongoing feud is that he said that I said I would catch him at a club and I was going to do something to him. So the prosecutor utilized the information that he disclosed in regards to the investigative subpoena, stating that we had an ongoing feud, and this is what led to the guy getting killed at the Detroit City Airport, saying that they had the same kind of car. DeAnthony Witcher had a 1998 blue Corvette. The guy that got killed at the Detroit City Airport, he had a 2004 silver Corvette. The cars weren't identical or nothing, but the prosecutor still was given leeway to utilize his theory up under 404B, which deals with previous bad acts. And they utilize this 404B to establish motive, intent, to show that a person has the propensity to commit violence, and what they or to establish a person's character is like character evidence or dealing with reputation. So what they did was they said based on the previous act between me and Witcher, this is what led up to this guy getting killed. And it was just a theory. And the theory was an unfounded truth, but they utilized this theory and they carried it all the way through the trial. They used DeAnthony in my case as a star witness. He got caught at the time of the incident that he said that DeAnthony Witcher testimony verbatim was that I shot him in 2003 in a case in which he never testified to this information. He never pressed charges to this information in his own shooting. But
hold on. That you personally shot Witcher?
Yeah.
But he never went to the police. He never went
to the police. Never.
Did he get medical treatment?
Huh?
Did he get medical treatment?
Yeah, he got medical treatment.
But you weren't the one who shot him.
No.
Somebody shot him, but he did get shot.
It was never proven no nothing. in regards to me doing nothing to this guy, but they used this guy as a star witness in this case to establish that this is why this guy got killed at the black party. So they used this uncharged case, brought him in, allowed him to take up his shirt, said I shot him in the chest, and said that we had an ongoing feud. But in order for him to testify, they gave him a deal for 3 pounds of marijuana, which he got caught in his house during this incident, in exchange for his testimony. And this deal was covered up on the use of immunity. And
so hold on. Let me just, for our listeners and viewers, he, about a week or two before I don't know if it's before he testified against you or before he was brought, he was popped for something else.
yeah, it was no. This what happened. On November 16, 2003, he was shot. He was shot on November 16, 2003. Upon being shot November 16, 2003, he never made a police report, never pressed charges, none of this. September 9th, 2004, he comes forward this 4 days after the shooting at the Detroit City Airport under the guise of Dale Collins, a homicide investigator. He tells investigators that the guy was killed based on me looking for him, and I killed Jamal Seekers in the case of mistaken identity. On November 18th, 2004, D'Anthony Witcher was caught on 8 Mile in Hoover, driving in a blue Corvette, a 1998 blue Corvette, and got caught with a loaded 9mm. A week before I got arrested on November 30th, 2004. But a week prior to my arrest, he was arrested on 8 Mile with this 9mm. In exchange for his testimony against me, they gave him a deal for the 4 pounds of marijuana that he got caught with during the incidents when he got shot. And they gave him a deal for the gun. They never put the deal on a gun on the record. They put the 4 pounds of marijuana, they put that on the record, stating that he got a deal for use of immunity in exchange for his testimony in regards to the ongoing feud with Mr. Thelonious Seaercy. They placed that on the record. 10 years after my conviction, I FOIA my homicide file. Upon FOIA my homicide file, I find that D'Anthony Witcher was arrested a week prior to me getting arrested with a 9mm. I submitted a Brady violation before Judge Kinney. Judge Kinney said this report wasn't new. It doesn't show a conviction on this case. So in 2018, when I go back for my evidentiary hearing, they say that he was never charged with this gun based on the fact that the car wasn't registered in his name, but he's the sole occupant or driver of this car, yet still he wasn't tried with this pistol. They dismissed the case. The gun case went away mysteriously, quote unquote. The prosecutor's office said they never charged him with it. Didn't understand.
Wow. So obviously he got, your theory is that the prosecutors dropped the gun charges, didn't put it on the record so they wouldn't have to notify you pursuant to Brady, because had you known about that, you could have cross-examined him on that in front of the jury, and the jury might have gotten a different impression whether or not they could have believed him or not.
Right.
Correct?
Right, correct.
So the second you learned about it, your head must have wanted to explode, and you went to Kenny. Kenny said nothing here, but your lawyers kept beating the drum, went in front of the Court of Appeals, went in front of the Supreme Court. And I have to imagine, I haven't read your Supreme Court ruling or the Court of Appeals ruling, but that Brady violation had to have something to do with the fact that they said you're entitled to a second trial. Is that true?
Well, I would say it was Mr. Morse. It's so many things that they got to, they got my case file where this case, let me just say this. One of the reasons I feel that they looked at it was, one, that the prosecutor was caught on the record red-handed. Not only was he caught, and this is the trial prosecutor, Patrick Muscat, who was the deputy chief prosecutor up under District Attorney Prosecutor Kim Worthy. Patrick Muscat was caught lying on the record. It's on the record. Not was he just caught lying on the record. I have 3 three officers that's involved in multiple criminal convictions where these guys been found. These particular officers have been found untrustworthy in regards to lying, falsifying ballistic evidence, tampering with evidence, and it's national. It's on the record. You have Dale Collins, who utilized an informant and that was placed inside a 1300 Bobian, who's supposed to went to prison. This informant name was Joe Twilley. Joe Twilley testified in over 100 cases. He jumped on over 100 cases on behalf of Dale Collins to obtain criminal convictions. It's a big article on this called Ring of Snitches, and this particular homicide detective's name has never been placed on a Brady Gigolo list as a one untrustworthy homicide detective. Never, even with guys who've been exonerated, such as Bernard Howard, Lucino Hamilton, Raymond Ward, Larry Smith. All these guys were involved in the Ring of Snitches. The same homicide guy was on my case. Kevin Reed, he was the firearm examiner who got the Detroit Crime Lab closed down in 2008 for his faulty practices in regards to falsifying ballistic evidence and all this, saying that evidence matched and it didn't. He got national exposure where in the People versus Gerard Williams, and his attorney name was Marvin Barnett. And in this particular case, what happened in this particular case was Reed testified that a 9mm matched the AK-47 round. They hired an independent firearm investigator, and it was found that the 2 caliber bullets, they wasn't compatible. The next firearm investigator I had on my case was David Punch. David Punch falsified ballistic evidence in the People versus Desmond Ricks. In this case, Desmond Ricks was charged with killing a guy outside of a restaurant, and they said that a 38 or 32 that was recovered from his mother's bedroom was the murder weapon. And in this particular case, Desmond Ricks took a cop's agreement to 30 years. 25 years into this 30-year cop, they retested the ballistics in the Desmond Ricks case, and it was found that the firearm was not even a murder weapon. So I believe that these judges were already informed on the officers, the prosecutor, because in my case, you have Muscat, who was the presiding prosecutor over the People versus Kenneth Nixon. In the Kenneth Nixon case, Kenneth Nixon was charged with killing a 6-year-old little girl and a 7-year-old little girl in a firebomb. And in this particular case, Prosecutor Muscat was caught via email, him and former homicide Detroit detective James Tolliver emailing back and forth saying that the case was falling apart. And what Muscat did in this case was he placed an informant in a cell with Kenneth Nixon to deliberately lie and say that Kenneth Nixon divulged information in regards to the case, saying that he was the killer in this particular case. So I have all these moving pieces in my case, coupled with the fact that you have a well-known Detroit hitman who confessed to this case years ago, according to his co-defendant, Marzell Black, who said he had confessed about this case. And at the time, they knew that he did the case back in 2004.
Right.
But Marzell Black testified in my case. They always talk about Vincent Smothers. They never talk about his co-defendant, Marzell Black, who testified in my case, stating that Vincent Smothers told him that he did this murder.
So okay, there's a lot of moving parts. We haven't even got to most of them, but you're out on bond, you're wearing a tether. As of right now, and she has the ability to change her mind. Prosecutor Worthy is saying she wants to try you a second time for this murder, despite all of these things that you're telling me about, despite the fact that Vincent Smothers could testify under oath, come to trial and say he's the one who shot this person with the 40, show the lies from make sure no lies are told. I'm not sure you're going to be able to show the lies that were told during your first trial, because that's not relevant in this trial.
Yes, sir.
But the alibis and Vincent Smothers and Witcher may or may not be able to testify. Is he still alive, that guy?
You said what?
Witcher, is he still alive?
I would believe so. I would hope so.
Well, you, good. So he's either going to come, either he's going to come back and testify, or they're not going to call him. I mean, it sounds like. And what about all the alibi witnesses? Hopefully they're still around, and hopefully they still remember.
Yeah, I had way more alibi witnesses than this.
How many were called in the first trial?
I had 17 people there
At the first trial, and how many did your lawyer call?
My attorney only called 7.
Okay.
And I had one of them worst appeal. I mean, not appeal, but trial representations of a lawyer, probably in the United States history.
What was his name?
I had Robert Mitchell. And in this case, now
that's a court-appointed attorney.
That was he was my paid attorney.
You paid him.
We paid him $20,000. I have receipts and everything.
For terrible representation. Now he's deceased, right?
Yeah, he's deceased. He died. He passed away in December 2017.
Okay, and your new lawyer, who's going to try your second case, if you have a second case, is who?
I'm represented by Michael Lardezi.
And he's willing to take your case to trial.
Yes, sir. Yes,
and
sir.
he seems to be doing a good job for you now.
Yes, sir. Yeah, he's doing.
I don't know him, but I'm impressed with. I'm impressed that you're sitting at home, after a life sentence for a murder conviction. You're sitting at home, helping prepare for trial from home, helping take care of your kids, with your wife, with your mom, with the support of your and love of your family. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. Now, I mean, is he having discussions with Prosecutor Worthy about not retrying you? Where's those discussions?
Well, see, when a person has arrogance, they become puffed up with pride. She's not willing to admit that this stuff is taking place, where her prosecutors within the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. She stand behind them.
But if they believed Vincent Smothers in the Devontae Sanford case, how come they wouldn't believe Vincent Smothers in Thelonious? Why am I? Thelonious Seaercy's case. Why wouldn't they believe him now?
Well, I can't answer it. I'm not a prosecutor. Only thing I can say is it's a personal vendetta.
Okay, you were telling me why you think that the prosecutor's office is not believing the shooter, Vincent Smothers, who signed affidavits, testified that you were not the shooter, he was the shooter. You've maintained your innocence since day one. Why do you think that they're saying right now that they want a second trial?
They don't want to lose. They don't want to. It's embarrassment going on. You got to think, out of all the wrongful convictions in the United States, Wayne County is second. So they don't want a case with so much high profile as such as mine to come back in front of them and they dismiss it. So before they just dismiss it and walk away from a case like mine, they feel that they go try it again, and I'm okay with that. But
do you have a trial date?
No, I don't have a trial date. I've been on this GPS device since the time I left. You know what I mean?
Are you allowed to leave the house?
Nope.
You're home confinement.
I'm on home confinement.
But your kids are with you. Your wife's with you. Your mom comes by and visits.
Well, yeah, my family come by and visit. You know what I mean? I'm sustaining myself based on I wrote a book while I was incarcerated. Well, I wrote 18 books while I was incarcerated.
Wow.
So,
where can people find these books?
Well, I got a book called Be First, Part 1 and 2. It's a hood novel. It's on Amazon.com. Arthur Thelonious Seaercy. But I did this while I was in prison, and I refuse to allow them to define who I am as an individual. You know what I mean? I'm not going to allow them to depict me as a murderer. I'm not going to allow them to depict me as somebody, you know what I mean, that did such a vile thing. So I feel that no matter what they do, they can plan, but God is the best of planners. I'm going to be all right. I wouldn't be empowered to be able to see and find out so much information if I wasn't backed by God. So I believe that whatever go happen, it's not going to affect me.
So back to your jury trial, and I know you're not happy with your attorney who tried that first case. What were the main reasons that you think you were convicted? I mean, there were There were 7 people testified that you were at the party. What do you think were the most important factors that the prosecutors presented that secured your conviction that day?
One of the main things why I was convicted, one, you had the prosecutor that lied. The fact that he lied about, the bullet. The bullet was so important. Obviously, the jury wouldn't have asked it if it didn't play a critical part in it.
And just to be real clear, it was a .40 caliber bullet that they pulled out of the victim, and they caught you, or they said that you had a .45 caliber weapon that they found in your grandmother's house that they told the jury, or they led the jury to believe was the actual gun.
Yeah.
So that, you think, is a metaphor. It's a smoking gun that, had they been truthful and said it was a .40, that right then and there, hopefully your attorney would have been smart enough to argue that those are 2 different calibers.
Right. They're not caliber compatible. Even during my, my evidentiary hearing, through way of independent firearm examiner David Ballish stated that confusing a 9mm and a .40. Now that's another thing. That was another thing that happened. What ended up happening is, in regards to the ballistics that we talk about with the decision that came from the Michigan Court of Appeals and the Michigan Supreme Court, it was a particular tag, evidence tag EO719-1604. It was labeled as a 9mm during the night of the shooting. They labeled that tag as a 9mm. During trial, this particular tag was labeled as a .40. So when I went back to court, I didn't go back to court on the ballistics, on the basis of the ballistics. That wasn't even, an argument that was raised. The chief judge took it upon himself trying to discredit what I was saying. He tried to discredit everything that we were saying. Like he just felt that, my appeal, it was bullshit. He felt that everything that we were submitting before the court was bullshit. And he didn't want to, he didn't want to accept the fact that this stuff took place inside of his courtroom as the chief judge. So what happened was he requested for that particular tag to be pulled. Upon this tag being pulled from the Michigan State Police Evidence Department, that particular tag was labeled, even right now, and I can forward you those exhibits. It's labeled still right now today a 9mm and a .40 caliber. So upon seeing this discrepancy, what they had to do, they had to re-examine that particular caliber casing, and it was found that this was the same bullet that they extracted from the deceased. So the bullet was identified on January 27, 2005, and they knew this. So there's no way you can get around it, because David Punch, he had identified it already. He had placed it on a record that it was a .40 caliber bullet. He placed that into the report. So when Kevin Reed and all these people testifying during my trial, and they saying they don't know what type of caliber or weapon, people exhibit 23 they can't identify, it was a lie, and it was a deliberate lie. So I believe when we go back to trial, we factor in, we got witnesses. I have the uncle of DeAnthony Witcher signed a sworn affidavit through the Iverson investigation. Signed an affidavit, a sworn affidavit. His name is Harvey Witcher, stating that that the girls who testified against me in this case, that they were paid to testify against me. I have that affidavit. And this particular witness was supposed to be called on my behalf, and my attorney didn't call him on purpose. He didn't call him. Robert Mitchell didn't call him. He signed an affidavit, and he said that the girls were paid to testify against me, And so I believe that's a mitigating factor. We have a witness named Latasha Boatwright. She gave information in regards to the Detroit police threatened her, telling her if she didn't testify that they'd take her unborn child, and that they offered her a snitch check in exchange for her testimony. So she did this article with a reporter by the name of Gus Burns. So information that's such as this is damaging to the, to the prosecutor's case. So we can go to trial. I'm ready for it. I'm ready. If we went to trial tomorrow, I'll be ready for it.
And the only evidence against you,
it was an informant. They strongest witness was an informant. You had
No eyewitnesses. No eyewitnesses.
you had 4 eyewitnesses against me in this case. You had
Tell me who.
you had this guy Dwayne Dye. In his police statement, this is what he tells the Detroit police. It's in black and white. I'm gonna forward it to you after this interview.
Okay.
He tells the Detroit police, he said, I must tell you, I'm not sure about the shooter's face, but if he had on the same clothes that he had on that night, I can identify him. Now, how is it that he tells this to the police? He tells it to a police officer named Matty Hardy or Matty Dixon. He states this in his police report. And then they show him a photo identification. He say that's number 5, that's him. Number 5 is not that. That's a picture that they have of me is a picture of me when I was 18 years old. The time of my arrest, I'm 24. I don't even look the same on that picture. But they say he say that's me. So my identification lined up with the whole process. It was tampered with. It was unduly suggestive in regards to, you know what I mean, how they identify me. And when you have a guy who make that statement and then turn around and identify me through a photo identification, that leads one to believe that the identification is tampered with. You have another witness named Tiffany King. Tiffany King was never showed a photo identification. Out of all the witnesses that testify against me, she's the only one that was never showed a picture of me. Why? I was in police custody. I should have been placed in a lineup. They should have showed her a picture of me. They showed Latasha Boatwright a picture of me. They showed Kimberly Jeffrey a picture of me. And they showed Dwayne Dye a picture of me. Why did they show all these witnesses pictures of me and they didn't show one to Tiffany King? So you had, that's a head scratcher. You have Latasha.
What did she testify to? What did she testify to?
She testified that she was parked on the side of the deceased's Corvette. She was in traffic on the side of the deceased's Corvette, and she identified me as being the shooter. But she was never showed a photo identification. Why? Why wouldn't she show the photo identification? So when you talk about Latasha Boatwright, they all describe me as being 190 to 200 pounds. You have Kimberly Jeffries saying I'm 190 to 200 pounds. Anybody who know me from the streets of Detroit, especially Northeast side, the first thing you would have said about me when you identify me is you're going to say I got crooked teeth. You're going to say that my teeth are crooked. And you're going to say that I got 100 tattoos all over my body, all over my arms. That's going to be your first identification of it. But none of those witnesses testified to that. They stated, that the shooter was caramel skin. I'm dark skinned. My skin, I can't turn from dark to light skin overnight. I've been dark skinned my whole life. So
you feel good about
my weight when I got arrested. I was 130 pounds. That's why my name was called Skinny Man in the streets.
So interesting. So that's why you're not concerned about the four people who ID'd you. One eyewitness, and then, there was only one eyewitness, and the other 3 were what? Or were they all there at the scene?
Well, you had 2 of the witnesses. They were cousins. 2 of the witnesses. Both of these witnesses, identification testimony from the last trial, it could be challenged based on the fact that the affidavit that I have from Harvey Whitcher stating that his nephew DeAnthony Whitcher paid these girls to testify against me. That could be easily dispelled. You know what I mean? So I feel that the jury's going to be able to discern the truth in all their testimony. I can't spill my whole defense in regards to how I'm going to go about attacking it. But
no, I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want you to give up those. I want you to save those for trial. And you think that the jury will believe Vincent Smothers? And that
Marzell Black, don't forget his co-defendant. The other hitman that was involved, Marzell Black and Vincent Smothers were charged with killing the Detroit police wife named Rose Cobb. The Detroit police sergeant who solicited Vincent Smothers in this particular murder, his name was David Cobb. And Marzell Black is the co-defendant on that case. And he testified that Vincent Smothers was responsible for committing this murder. So I I have no worries.
Yeah. Lots of questions out there whether they're going to retry you. And I have a note here that you recently graduated from Blackstone Career Institute. Tell us what that is and what you hope to do with that, assuming you get that tether off and you can go out and do some good things in this world.
Well, my thing is, to be, I want to eventually become a lawyer. But I was, I became a paralegal based on, my situation, my circumstances, because I was failed at every angle in regards to legal representation. So I wanted to have my own knowledge, my own understanding of law, the language of the law, because through my ignorance, I suffered for my ignorance because I didn't understand what was being said during my, my trial. I couldn't help myself.
Mhm.
I believed and my family believed, because we paid an attorney, that this attorney would, upheld his sworn legal ethical duty as an attorney to represent me to the fullest of his ability. And I was let down. So my whole ideal of becoming a paralegal is to help those who are, less fortunate, who can't afford a $20,000 to $40,000 attorney. I feel that if I can help anybody, if I have to do 100 pro bono cases, my first 3-4 years and coming into this, I'm willing to do that, because I know how I feel to not have help, to not have nobody listen or nobody, research and try to, just do effective work. But what I learned in this paralegal course, I learned about contracts. I learned about the criminal law. I learned about judicial proceedings. I learned about shepherdizing. I learned about, just the language, the King Court. I learned, stuff that's going to help me, ascend higher in regards to my position and as a paralegal, my position as a defendant right now in court. I believe it has equipped me and empowered me to be able to hear and understand what's going on now.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thelonious Seaercy, I appreciate you being here and I wish you the best of luck. We're going to add some links to the end of our show notes with the books and any documents that you mentioned in the show. If you'd like to send them to me, I'd like to show our listeners, show our viewers if they want to take a look at it. And I'd love you to keep in touch with us and let us know what happens. Let us know if they decide to prosecute you again and come back on for another conversation, because I've enjoyed learning about your case. I think it was eye-opening, and I hope that the public listens and watches and makes their own decisions.
One more thing before I go.
Yes, sir.
I have a documentary coming out in regards to my whole entire conviction.
Let's hear it. Where's that going to be?
It's coming out soon. I'm hoping that to see it on the big screen within the next 6 months. I've been working on this thing now for a little over 9 months.
Wow. Who's playing you?
I'm playing me myself.
You are.
That board that I showed you breaking down my whole entire case. I'm working with different producers. I'm working with one producer from former producer from MTV, Nadia Rush. I'm working with William Bradford. I'm working with BJ Levins from AGC Studios, and Sarah Rutherford, and a slew of other producers in regards to exposing what's actually taking place in Wayne County. Each day that I'm out here, I'm making my time count. But you will be able to see the fullness of my, my mental, my legal expertise, and how I fought this case from ground zero to right now, to the position right now where I'm doing this interview with you.
Well, I'm excited to see that. Best of luck. Thank you for coming on Open Mic, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Morse.
take care. Thelonious Seaercy, you may remember hearing about him, episode 10. Go back and watch it. Talk about Vincent Smothers a lot. And this story's not over, right? We don't know. Stranger things have happened. We'll see if Kim Worthy's office decides to retry this man a second time, or she decides to drop the charges. I haven't read all the decisions, so I'm not going to make a guess what's going to happen. But something will happen in the near future, and we'll bring it back to you here on Open Mic. So thank you. Subscribe, comment, share this with your friends and family. We really appreciate you. Take care.